Would you like to achieve from people what you need just by using small psychological tricks? Sounds cool, doesn't it? In fact, psychology is not something complicated or mysterious. If you know a few simple techniques, you can make your life much easier and more successful. In this video, we will talk about 23 psychological tricks that you can use every day. So stay with us, and you will learn how to become a master of communication and achieve what you need without too much effort. 1. Be the first or the last. This is the golden rule that Hollywood filmmakers use. We remember best what we see at the beginning and end. Therefore, if the beginning of the film is exciting and the ending is unexpectedly interesting, then we will like it, even if the middle was boring. This also works in communication. If you're going for an interview, try to be one of the first or last candidates. This way, you will be better remembered. It's the same in conversation. If you make a good impression right away and add a joke or something interesting at the end, even if the middle was unsuccessful, the overall impression will remain positive. Write in the comments, what is your favorite movie? I'm sure you were impressed by the finale. 2. Mirror image. This technique is also known as the chameleon effect.
Do you want a person to like you, even if you barely know each other? Repeat his behavior. During communication, try to make similar gestures, facial expressions, and speak at the same pace. New York University conducted a study confirming that people tend to sympathize with those who copy them. It works on a subconscious level. We like those who resemble ourselves. This skill is useful at an important meeting or when you need to get someone's approval. 3. Eye contact. Do you want to please a stranger in a couple of seconds? Use a simple life hack. Determine the color of his eyes. This helps to establish eye contact without causing discomfort. It will take you only 5 seconds to determine the color of your eyes, enough to arouse sympathy. Prolonged eye contact, on the contrary, can cause tension and even hostility. Therefore, look for a balance. Look into the eyes, smile, but do not forget to be distracted sometimes. This will help you communicate with people much easier and more pleasant. 4. Fight or flight. Despite all the evolution, our brain still retains ancient instincts. When we face danger, we have two choices: fight or run. Thousands of years ago, this happened when meeting a wild animal. But today, for example, a person under interrogation or a teenager feels the same emotions when his parents persistently interrogate him. In both cases, the heart starts beating faster, the adrenaline rises, and the arms and legs are energized. But if it is impossible to escape, the person subconsciously tries to throw out this energy, fidgets, touches his hair, rubs his hands, or makes other unnatural gestures. Also, when a person lies, his body temperature rises, so some people start touching the collar or pulling off clothes to cool down. Keep this in mind to recognize a lie. Remember that these signs do not always mean a lie, but they can be clues that something is wrong, and if you learn to recognize them, it will help you better understand people and avoid unpleasant situations. 5. Use silence. When we are silent, it creates a certain discomfort for the interlocutor. Imagine that you are talking about something important and suddenly one of you stops talking. This moment of silence can make the other person feel uncomfortable. He will start thinking, "Why doesn't he speak? What's going on?" This discomfort can encourage a person to open up and say more than he originally planned. Here's a little secret. To enhance the effect of silence, try to look at the other person's forehead, not into their eyes. This will make you more impressive and help create an atmosphere of expectation. When you look at the forehead, the person will feel that you are listening attentively to him and will start talking to fill the silence. It also encourages a person to tell the truth. 6. Compliments. It's a simple word, but it can work wonders in communication. This is a pleasant conversation starter which is often used in the USA. For example, people will mark your shirt, hairstyle, or glasses. This sets a positive tone for the conversation. Try to start a conversation with a compliment to an unfamiliar person. It will immediately arouse sympathy. If you want to make a stronger impression, the compliment should be thinner. For example, mention the work that a person has put into achieving a result. Note what form he is in if you know that he has worked hard to lose weight, or praise his professional achievements. This will immediately create a warmer attitude. But here's the key point. Compliments should be sincere. If you say something just to say it, it will seem unnatural. Therefore, choose something that you really like about a person. The right compliment will not only endear the interlocutor to you, but also make the conversation more open and pleasant. 7. Tell me, please. Do you want to quickly establish contact with a stranger? Let him help you. People like to help others. For example, if this is your first day at a new job, ask a colleague to suggest something minor, such as where the nearest cafe is located. It costs nothing for the interlocutor, but he will have a pleasant feeling that he helped, and you will establish contact faster. 8. The 5-second rule. According to psychologists, it takes us only 5 seconds to establish an initial impression when meeting a stranger. That is why, if you are trying to gain respect and sympathy, you should think about your actions in advance. Two key aspects that the interlocutor will pay attention to at the first contact are your appearance and posture. When it comes to appearance, clothes come first, of course. The principle of dressing like everyone else is not the best choice because you stop standing out from the rest, which makes it much more difficult to create sympathy and interest in you. However, this does not mean that your clothes should be expensive or pretentious. The main thing is that it emphasizes your personality and style. The brand or price is not crucial. As for the pose, there is also something to think about. If you slouch, pinch, or hide your hands, your body tells the other person that you are not confident in yourself. It is difficult to perceive such a pose as convincing, and it is almost impossible to earn respect at such moments. Therefore, it is important to monitor your posture. Do not hide your hands in your pockets and maintain eye contact. Of course, the further course of the conversation and the topics for discussion also play a significant role, but the first impression can set the general tone of the entire conversation, which in turn can lead to either success or failure. So remember, if you want to make a good first impression, just be confident and watch your posture.
9. The bait effect. This is an interesting psychological technique that marketers often use to help us make a choice. Imagine that you are going to buy a new phone. In the store, you see 3 options: cheap, medium-priced, and very expensive. A cheap phone has basic functions, and an expensive one has a lot of cool features, but it costs a lot more. Now, attention, the average option, although it costs less than the expensive one, but at the same time it looks more attractive against the background of others. This is the bait effect. When you see all 3 options, your brain starts comparing. The average phone, although not the cheapest, looks like a more reasonable choice compared to the expensive one, even if it is not as good as the most expensive one. Thus, marketers use this effect to force us to choose what is beneficial to them, setting the bait. This technique can be noticed not only in stores, but also in other areas, for example, when choosing services or products. So the next time you choose something, think about it. Is someone trying to use the decoy effect to direct your choice in the right direction? Be careful, and it will help you make more informed decisions. 10. Signs of inattention. If your interlocutor strokes his chin during a conversation, this is a sure sign that he is not listening to you. This is a gesture people make when they think deeply about something and are distracted by what is happening around them. So if you notice this, it's better to stop and not tell something important. The interlocutor will not accept the information anyway. A similar signal is if a person leans back in his chair. His body language indicates that he is tired or bored. When you see that the other person is distracted, stop for a second. This will give him time to realize that he is not listening and return to the conversation. Sometimes just silence can make a person focus on what you're saying again. 11. How to remember names. Problems with remembering names cause a lot of awkward situations, especially in business communication. People don't like being asked their names again. To better remember names, there is a simple life hack. When a person introduces himself, try to use his name several times in conversation. Start phrases with the name of the interlocutor. This helps to fix it in memory and avoid awkwardness in future meetings. Another trick is to associate the name with something familiar. For example, if you meet a man named Alexander, remember the famous Alexander the Great, or someone you already know with that name. These associations will help you better remember the name of a new acquaintance. Remember, a name is not just a set of letters. It's an important part of a person's personality, and when you use it in conversation, you create a warmer and more trusting atmosphere. 12th. Common interests. We feel sympathy for people with whom we have something in common. Therefore, if during the conversation you find out that your interlocutor enjoys the same food as you, prefers similar movies, or is engaged in the same hobby, use this information. Share a personal story related to this common theme. For example, if your interlocutor mentioned that he likes superhero movies and you are also a fan of Iron Man and his friends, be sure to tell us about your impressions of the latest movie or series on this topic. Do not hesitate to ask the interlocutor questions about his opinion. By finding a common theme, you will get closer emotionally, and this will create a more trusting atmosphere. 13. Ask for more. This technique is often used by sellers. They tell you a higher price, and when you start to refuse to buy, they suddenly offer you a discount. In fact, the initial high price was often just a strategy to make it easier for you to accept a lower offer. This method can be successfully applied in everyday life. For example, if you want to borrow 500 rubles from a friend, first ask for 1,000 rubles. If you hear a refusal, ask for at least 500. Thus, the probability of receiving 500 rubles increases significantly compared to if you had immediately applied with this amount. Another example, if you want to have pet fish, but you know that your parents or spouses may be against it, start by asking for a larger pet, for example, a dog or a cat. When you get rejected, suggest an idea with fish. In this case, your interlocutor may agree, since fish look much less problematic compared to dogs, and he may also feel guilty for refusing the first request. 14th service in advance. If you need help from another person, the best way is to make them feel obligated to you. How to do it? First, you volunteer to help him in some case. When a person thanks you, don't respond with the usual "not at all" or "no problem." Instead, say, "Please, that's what friends do." This will create a subconscious sense of duty in the interlocutor, and in the future, he will be more willing to respond to your request. The influence of clothing color. The color of clothes has a strong influence on people's perception, even if they are not aware of it. Therefore, carefully choose the color of your clothes depending on the situation. For example, if you are going to an interview with a serious company, avoid too bright colors, such as orange or light green, so as not to scare off a potential employer. Don't forget about shoes too. It should be clean and tidy. The heel, by the way, plays an important role. It makes you visually taller and gives you more confidence, as well as creates the impression of professionalism. 16. Start small. This trick is useful both for working alone and for interacting with other people. If you have a big task ahead of you and it's hard for you to get started, try to trick your brain. Tell yourself that you will only be doing this for 20 minutes. Very often, after this time, you will already immerse yourself in the business and continue to work. You can also split a large task into several small ones and complete them gradually. This technique also works when managing a team. If you have subordinates, instead of giving them one big task, divide it into several steps and suggest starting with something small. This way, it will be easier for them to enter the workflow and they will cope with the task faster. 17. Don't get personal. This may seem like obvious advice, but many ignore it. Imagine that you're discussing an idea with friends or at a meeting. At some point, a dispute arises with one of the participants. Arguments run out, and you start to get personal. For example, you claim that the interlocutor has less experience than you do, or that his ideas are always unsuccessful. It seems to you that this is a strong argument, and you have gained an advantage. However, in fact, others begin to perceive you negatively. The problem is that you began to criticize the person, not his idea. Going personal makes you vulnerable. It is important to focus on criticizing the specific proposal of the interlocutor and then offer your solution. In this way, you will demonstrate confidence and earn the respect of others. 18. Start a conversation with a joke. Have you ever noticed how sometimes it's a little awkward at the beginning of a conversation? This happens when both people don't know where to start. This can be especially difficult if you don't know the person very well yet. But there is one wonderful way that will help diffuse the atmosphere and establish contact. And this is a joke. A joke is like a little magic key that opens the door to friendly communication. It will make people smile and feel more comfortable. Imagine you approach someone, and instead of just saying, "Hi," the comma, you tell a funny story or a light joke. Smiling is a great way to get closer to people. But here's the important point. Don't memorize the same joke and tell it to everyone. If you keep repeating the same thing, sooner or later it will start to get boring. Try to update your arsenal of jokes. It can be something as simple as a funny joke or a phrase from a comedy show. If you are diverse, people will expect something new and interesting from you. So the next time you encounter an awkward pause in a conversation, just remember the power of a joke. This will help you establish contact, bring a smile, and make the conversation pleasant. Remember, humor unites people, and this is the best way to create a friendly atmosphere. 19. Use food to improve relationships. For centuries, eating together has brought people together. Serious conflicts or disputes rarely arise during meals. If you need to tell someone an unpleasant truth, whether it's a colleague or a loved one, do it at the table. When people eat, they are focused on the process and less involved in the conversation, which allows them to calmly perceive difficult information. The choice of location also plays an important role. If you are in a noisy place, the presence of other people will become an additional barrier to the manifestation of negative emotions. Moreover, when we are hungry, we become more nervous, so offering something to eat before voicing unpleasant news will help to facilitate the perception of information. This will create a more relaxed atmosphere and allow the person to perceive your message with less stress. 20. Confuse to convince. Sometimes, in order to convince a person, you need to minimize the time for his thoughts. One way is to confuse him. For example, you need to sell an item for €5. Instead of naming this amount directly, try saying 500 cents. The person will think for a moment, trying to convert this amount into euros, and thus you will keep his attention. As a result, when he realizes that it is only €5, the price will seem very insignificant to him, and the probability of buying will increase. It is important to remember that entanglement must be reasonable. It is not necessary to go to extremes and make everything so complicated that the interlocutor will simply go into perplexity. 21. The order begins with cleaning. Do you want to improve your life? Start with a simple one. Clean up the room. It sounds like one of the banal phrases, but in fact, there is a scientific theory behind it, the theory of broken windows. Back in the 80s in New York, sociologists noticed that chaos and crime in the city began with minor violations such as broken windows or theft. As soon as the authorities began to deal with minor offenses, the level of serious crimes also decreased. The same can be said about personal life. Disorder in one area will lead to chaos in others. Therefore, if you want to start changing your life, start with cleaning. When you clean, it's like you're clearing your mind. Keeping the room tidy will help you focus on important tasks, increase your productivity, and even improve your mood. 22. Eat to calm down. When you feel nervous and can't relax, try just eating. This is a surprisingly simple but effective way. The fact is that the process of chewing distracts the brain and you become calmer. However, keep in mind that this works in one direction. It is better to relax while eating, rather than assimilate important information, since the brain cannot effectively do both things at the same time. 23rd. Formulate requests correctly. For example, if you need to ask a friend to help you move, most people will probably say, "Could you help me move things on Saturday?" This formulation significantly reduces the chances of a positive response. He starts with, "Could you?" You do not set a specific task, but ask an abstract question. Thus, it is easier for a person to refuse. Instead, try saying, "Please help me move things on Saturday." This formulation significantly increases the likelihood of obtaining consent. At a minimum, your friend will not come up with excuses and will refuse only if he really has other important things to do. So if you want to achieve a result, always try to be specific and confident in your requests. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And of course, click on the bell to not miss new interesting videos. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. It is very important for us to know your opinion. Thank you for being with us, and see you soon.